So last night, I was watching two different pieces of cinematic art. The first one was Nosferatu, and the second one was the fourth season of Atlanta. Specifically, the episode where Ern and Van go on a camping trip for Lottie's birthday. One thing that I gathered from both of those movies, because there is obviously like elements of like feminism, like not feminism, I don't really like that word, just like in the plot, which I deeply appreciate, is just like the view or perspective of like women when we're in our masculine energy or when we're forced to be problem solvers, our frustrations, our rage, our pride, our ego. When stuff like that is like shown, it really brings me so much happiness because it's just wonderful. Like, it needs to be depicted, period. So one thing that I noticed is that that I really like and that I feel is very accurate and for men to ponder. Like, I know you guys have a hard time, so like not all you guys, but a lot of you guys do have a hard time giving women center stage to be heard, be correct, be like, heard isn't even the problem. Some of you guys like, if somebody says something and it's wrong, some of you guys get off on humiliation a little bit, I think, because a lot of male and masculine people have been kind of bullied and pushed around and belittled by their peers, their male counterparts, their friends, their peers, classmates, by their own parents. Like, I get it, like, but us women, we go through that in a different way. It's more abusive, it's more psychological, it's more like, it's hard to describe like the difference, and I'm not trying to compare it ever, because I think that some things are just shouldn't necessarily be compared, not in a competitive way, but more comparing way that's more so for learning purposes. Like, that's what we're doing here only, not arguing, not trying to win the struggle Olympics, you know what I'm saying? But back to what I was saying, a lot of women, I think men need to, it would be sustainable, okay, and helpful if more men kind of become a lot more comfortable with problem solving with a woman in a way where it's like, what do you think we should do? Like, respect her perspective, respect the fact that she has some experience too. She has wisdom, sometimes more than you, and that's okay. I think reminding ourselves, just as individuals, period, not even in the face of the opposite sex, just in general, we should all like keep in mind that remaining a student at all times is like really important for life. It's a life skill. Like, no matter the most rich, intelligent, amazing person in the world, is going to tell you that they never stop learning. They'll learn something from a small child that they have a short conversation with. They'll learn something from a movie, from an experience. Like, it's about constant growth and constant growth, constant movement. When you're stagnant, that's when the issues start. When you're too comfortable in what you know, that's when issues start for anyone, but especially men, because you guys kind of get tripped up in this a lot. It's okay, and not just, it really is a personal, individual problem, but I noticed that happens a lot with males, and it's an issue, it's a problem. There's this, let me get into some solid examples, because I know that's important. But in Atlanta, they were crossing a river, and they had on regular clothes, no water shoes or anything, just literally regular thick hiking shoes, socks, pants, very clean, whatever hiking, kind of dry weather activity clothes. And they had an opportunity to cross a river, and while that would have been interesting and kind of adventurous, you know, as black people, let's be for real, who didn't, you know, as black people, we like adventure, but we like to plan for adventure sometimes. Like, I thought the moment was interesting because I would have been torn. Like, basically, they were going across. It was Van, Ern, and Lottie. Van had on a big backpack sack, and he was like, I can put Lottie on my shoulders and we could cross the river. And it was kind of a fast moving stream, lots of rocks, lots of fast moving water. And Van looks at the water and she goes, no. And she just says no, and she just walks away. There's very specific things I have to comment about that, but I'm just going to keep it general and go, I think that's interesting because my friend who was a male who was watching with me, he was like, I think they could have did it. I think that he could have made that happen. And I was like, yeah, probably. But I just kind of threw out some reasons why she probably said no. And I'm like, she probably didn't want to be wet. She probably didn't want to worry about what could be in the water. And when I said in the water, I just mean like leeches, you know, just random shit that could get on your clothes and you can't wash it out. So you don't want it to smell weird or whatever. And he pointed out the fact that it was moving water. And I'm like, well, that's a great point because moving water is fresh water. Usually water you can drink and everything. So like, I was, good point. But then I was like, yeah, she probably just wouldn't have wanted to be wet. They were going to go have a picnic. So, you know, if you're going to sit in grass, whether you have a blanket to put down or not, like it's just not very comfortable being wet, especially in a place like Atlanta, because I know that the mosquitoes was probably biting child. So being wet equals getting ate up by mosquitoes and just kind of being wet and uncomfortable. And then your shoes being wet, meaning that they could smell. You have to sit them out. You have to hope that they dry in the morning. If they don't, you just have these wet shoes. And it's just not good. It rained the next day. You could get sick. Like, it's just, you know, obvious stuff. And then, like, he also said, like, he does have on that big-ass backpack. And I'm like, yeah, okay, the backpack plus the child on the shoulders, that could equal an easy misstep. That's an easy injury on her birthday. You know, not saying that has to happen. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, it was just, like, a little too risky for the moment. You know what I'm saying? So he just didn't even question her. He just went along with what it's like every time. Like, the point of the episode, I think, was to display that Van had some reservations. She had her guard up a little bit with Ern. She didn't really trust his methods all his methods and all his plans. And that's just because his methods and his plans work well for him, but they don't necessarily work well for her or for them as a unit. And I think she was just trying to, like, make sure that he knew, like, okay, I have my boundaries, you know. And each time, like, you could tell he was like a little like wondering about it, maybe slightly frustrated at times, but he never, like, if she wanted to be soft with him, she could have. You know what I'm saying? Like, he gave off the kind of energy where if she wanted to feel soft, she could have. But it's just like in their dynamic, it has worked all that time with both of them being kind of like in more of a like problem solving masculine consider role. I'm doing finger quotations because that's what we've, you know, gathered. That's what we've created, whatever, of gender roles, child, which is a mess in itself, but whatever. But anyways, the other example is in the movie Nosferatu, and sorry, spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen it. I'm starting now, but the whole movie, it begins with her having this crazy dream. And it's not just a dream. If you are a spiritual person, you are fully aware that everything about being alive is deeply spiritual. It's a deeply intricate experience because your soul is literally tethered to a body, and you're still having extremely spiritual experiences, especially when you're asleep, because it allows the soul to travel a little bit more freely and open, you know, that kind of thing. So the movie starts off with her literally being summoned, her soul being summoned by a demon. Like, she's literally having a type of dream where she's making contact with a very dark presence, and she knows exactly what's happening in this dream. A lot of people have this gift, but I've noticed that a lot of women have this gift very, like, I haven't talked, like, I've talked to a lot of men who are very good at this, but women, you know, it's different. It's more like, how can I put it? We receive messages and we receive things like a little bit more regularly, and it's in a way where we can like decipher, like, we know, like, okay, if every time I have a dream about eating ice cream, I come on my period, we start to kind of just take it as law. But that's a feminine thing. God knew that. Nature knew that when it created the woman, the feminine, right? But men, like, even if they have that same gift, they don't always make it law. You know what I'm saying? And it kind of, that not trusting your intuition, it scopes your intuition. And if your intuition is not being regarded consciously by you and your soul and all the parts of you, then it's not gonna kind of function as properly as it should. Whatever. Not gonna get into that. The point is from in this whole movie, she's trying to tell him, like, look, I had this dream. If you go do this job that you're trying to do, I know we just got married, I know you need money, but at the end of the day, we just love each other, period. We love each other and we want to be with each other, but we're a partnership. You got to listen to me. Back in these times, 1800s, you know, men, they'd be madly in love with a woman, but they won't necessarily take what she says as king most of the time because of their fucking social structure or whatever. Child, it's so dumb. But she's telling him, like, look, I had this dream, these visions, like, I've been having them since I was a child. Like, there's something that is trying to, like, essentially her issue was there's a darkness that's attached to me and it's trying to, you know, kill my love life. It's trying to kill my ability to be my free will, you know, and it's because she invited in at some point in her life, but that has nothing to do with the point. The point is she didn't want to be a part of this thing anymore. It's like inviting smoking into your life, and you're like, I don't want to smoke anymore, and your husband's like, well, they're offering me a job at the cigarette factory, and she's like, please don't go. Like, it's gonna change you, it's gonna change me. I know my addiction, I know how this goes. If you really love somebody and if you really trust in a higher power, which she did in the movie, she was praying, it was like very spiritual in that, like, we need to lean on this other thing to help us free ourselves from this darkness, whatever. That was her belief. Everybody had those beliefs aligned. In the whole movie, the men were just not listening to the women when they were expressing their worries and their concerns. And that pretty much was the reason for every bad thing happening. And the thing about that is it's a surrealism, you know, that they're using for a lot of cinema and shows these days. And I think it's very effective because even though it seems so, you know, over exaggerated, it's like true. Like, no, like, this is how it usually goes. And if anybody knows me, you know how, you guys know how optimistic and rooted in faith that I am. I'm like, I feel like there always can be whatever the ending you want can happen if you want it enough and you make it happen enough and you are focused on it enough, right? So my question this rising is, like, I believe the women, we could do it on our own, like defeat darkness in the world on our own with the help of the Most High, but it's meant for us to have, you know, I feel like if we have any issues, it's because of the male counterpart, our masculines, because I'm questioning if they are truly strong enough. And that's the point of this whole talk. I didn't even mean for it to take me this long to get to this point. If the video ends, I'm sorry. My apologies. I don't have a lot of room on my phone to make a part 2, but, or I could after I upload the part 1, but, yeah, y'all, my real point is like, are the masculine strong enough to really defeat evil? You know, it's because, you know, I believe that it's possible. It's just like, it just takes a lot of patience for, you know, it's like the rest of the world has to wait while they get their shit together. It's almost like, kind of like starting a race. And this is going to sound pretty effed up, but this is how I experience it. But it's like starting a relay race. And like the woman is like, she's ready to run. She's exercising. She's ready to run the race. She gets the baton. She runs. She's about to win the race. And then she hands the baton to the masculine. And the masculine is supposed to finish strong. And the masculine is like, walk in, no urgency. Like, walk in, you know, they're like not even running. I don't know how to explain it. It's just like, when it comes to men, like, I feel this lack of urgency, okay? The masculine energy, divine masculine energy, whatever you want to call it, child. There's this lack of urgency. And let me repeat that, like, divinity requires so much patience. So I'm wondering if it's divinely supposed to be happening like this, because God makes no mistake. I trust the Most High. That's why a relationship with the Most High or the divine is like completely dependent upon your life experience. That is going to be on an individual basis. You determine how patient you want to be with something in your life. I'm very patient. I've learned to be very patient. So much so to where I know when God is asking me to be patient, and I know when something is just like dragging for no reason. And when something's dragging for no reason, I just leave it. It's like leaving a pot to boil and then coming back to check it later. Like, I've learned to be that way with masculine friends, masculine people around me, masculine situations, you know, anything involving action, vitality, men, you know, anything like that, right? Because women, we have this very great skill of multitasking and flexibility because we kind of are born with it for different reasons. Like, we're forced to be that. And men can learn a lot from us when it comes to that. But my issue is feeling as though men are not wanting to learn that from us. And if they do, it's more on a sneak tip a lot of the time. It's not like they're saying, oh, how are you doing that? How do you do that? You know, I love that you do that. I want to be more like that. I never really see a lot of, like, the men that I see that are like that are it's rare. But when I find men like that, and I am meeting more guys like that, I'm gonna keep them around. I had another friend like that. Shout out to I think his name was Terry. He actually ended up moving from LA to Sacramento, and you know, that was that. We could have stayed in contact, but child, like, he be on the move. And that's what I love, like a man that just be moving and shaking, and not just that, but like taking care of himself at the same time. That is so hot, because that's the perfect balance of like masculine and feminine energy. So I'm saying all that to say, child, I think it's super hot and super impressive when men are so balanced to where they can take care of their responsibilities and still have a good time, still laugh and smile, still, you know, even in the face of struggle, they can still enjoy life and take care of themselves. Like, men who are more so like streamlined on one thing and they can't multitask or have a multi-track mind, at least two. God damn. Like, if you can't have multiple, like at least two at once. Like, it's like when I see a man who is working hard, but he is like, he can't do anything but, or like if he's healing himself, he can't do anything but that for like so long. It's like, it's just a little bit like, I'm such a patient person, and the mommy vibes within me. I don't have children, by the way, but the mommy vibes within me, the girl boss vibes within me, like all the vibes within me are like, okay, like, okay, I'm gonna be patient, take your time. But then it's like, all right, you gotta get it going. You gotta get it going. And it's funny because that was depicted so well in both of these cinematic experiences, because the women were so, like, Van wasn't very, like, she's feminine, like, naturally, like, but not as feminine as I would like to see her. The most feminine I've seen her is when she was ignoring all the men in Amsterdam and just like doing her and not really caring about anything anybody was telling her to do or expecting her to do. She just was like, I'm buying wigs, child, I'm buying makeup, I'm hanging out, it's beauty and luxury and fun, like purely feminine. But then in this episode, she was a lot more masculine. You know, but it wasn't. It's interesting because it wasn't like masculine where it was like, ooh, like she's so strong and oh, and so unattractive. It was like what I'm talking about as far as like hotness with guys. I can imagine that a guy would look at a woman, how Van was being in the episode when she was camping, her seeing a woman be balanced like that, and it's like so hot. When she was in Amsterdam, it was a little annoying because it's like, you're not even telling people where you're going. It was like way too feminine. It's like, girl, you're not thinking. We're in another country. These white people are a little strange and you are not telling nobody where you're at. You know what I'm saying? It was just crazy. At a party, she like pushed this guy in a pool. It's just like, girl, like you're being a little crazy. You know what I'm saying? But she, whatever. But in this episode, I can only imagine if I was a guy, I would find this hot. Like, she was funny with her child. She was teaching her things. She was also protecting her at the same time. It was like she was knowledgeable yet chill and still enjoying herself. Like, I don't know. Like, it was a good balance. Like, when I'm describing my male friends who are the same way. Like, I have a friend right now who, he made money, he paid his rent, he got all his business taken care of. He also went out all night. Stayed out all night. He literally is busy as shit, but yet he's still, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're texting, he's a fast texter, and we do have to think about, if you're into astrology, you do have to think about people's placements, their sun sign, their moon sign, and how that kind of responds to you. Because I have friends who are earth signs, water signs, and they're very slow moving, very much so, one thing at a time, very patient. I love patience and all that, but like when people kind of have a hard time, it's like and then when they lack flexibility, like I've learned, for me, like it's just something that I don't like it. So men, I challenge you, dude, like learn how to be more flexible. It's really hot. I believe it's super important for evolution. It's very attractive. It's very helpful. It gives. I feel like when I talk like that, y'all get it. Cause y'all, like, when women are in our power and in our shit, y'all like that shit. Y'all like it. Some of y'all won't say it out your mouth because you feel like it might sound sassy or come off a certain way, but we can tell, we see it. Like, I was with a homeboy last night and he loves to come off very masculine, but I heard this nigga say, bitch. And I'm like, that's that shit right there. That's that shit that women, we don't like it because it's extremes. It's like you want to be so masculine, but then, it's hard to explain. It's like the ones who are very not unbalanced, males who are very unbalanced, they kind of have a hard time with femininity. Like, either they like femininity for one reason, and we know what the reasons are, just to have somebody cute next to them or to indulge in, sexy times and stuff like that, or be in the company of it. Or they like the opposite, extremely masculine women who probably make terrible choices out of just like moving too fast. Like, it's like they like one or the other, these extremes. And I just challenge y'all, like, extremes are just not it. Like, try to be more balanced, try to find a middle ground, because it's just important in this season. I think every individual will know where they fall, but like try to watch these things, or just, let me know what y'all think about what I'm saying. Let's have a back and forth.